Winning the lottery should solve your money problems for life. And yet, a shocking number of lottery winners end up broke again. Some lose tens of millions in just a few years. Some end up with nothing. And some actually end up worse off than before they won. And when you hear that, it doesn't make any sense. Because how do you lose that kind of money? How do you go from set for life to having nothing again? And more importantly, what are they doing wrong that so many people don't see? Because when you start looking into these stories, you realize something very uncomfortable. Winning money and keeping money are two completely different things. Hi, my name is Becky, and on this channel we talk about money, life choices, and what it really takes to build something stable over time. Because the truth is, most of what we believe about money sounds logical, but doesn't always play out that way in real life. If you ask almost anyone what they would do if they won the lottery, the answers are usually very similar. Not just luxury, but things that feel personal. A home, not something extreme, just a place where you finally feel safe, where everything feels calm. Paying off debts, so that weight that's been sitting on your shoulders for years finally disappears. Helping your parents, helping your siblings, the people who stood next to you when things weren't easy. Maybe traveling the world for a while, seeing places you've only ever imagined without constantly thinking about what it costs. And maybe the biggest one of all, just peace. Waking up and not having to think about money the moment your day starts. No more calculating, no more stress when a bill comes in, no more feeling like everything depends on that next paycheck. Because for a lot of people, the lottery isn't really about becoming rich. It's about finally being able to breathe. And if we're honest, most of us have imagined that moment at least once. That quiet thought of, oh, what if everything just changed overnight? But here's the part most people don't think about. When that money arrives, it doesn't arrive in a vacuum. It arrives in a life that already exists, with the same habits, same relationships, same way of thinking about money, and that is where things start to go wrong. To understand how things can go wrong, we can take a look at what actually happened to real people. In 2002, a man named Jack Whittaker won more than $300 million. And what makes this story so surprising is that he wasn't starting from nothing. He already owned a successful construction company. He already had money, which means if anyone should have been able to handle it, it was him. But very quickly, things started to change. He became known for carrying large amounts of cash with him, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. And one night, while his car was parked outside a strip club, thieves broke in and stole over $500,000 in cash. Not long after, it happened again. Another large amount of money gone. And that's where you start to see it. This isn't about having money. This is about having no system around it. But the money itself wasn't the biggest problem. The real problem was everything that came with it. People started showing up in his life. People he didn't know. People asking for money. people claiming he owed them something. Lawsuits followed, some from people accusing him from things, others trying to get access to his money. At one point, a woman working at a bar accused him of assault, a case that ended up in court. Whether true or not, it shows how quickly things around him became unstable. And inside his personal life, things were falling apart even faster. His granddaughter, who had received money from his winnings, struggled with addiction and died at just 17 years old. His daughter passed away a few years later. Businesses failed. Legal battles kept draining money, and the life that once looked like a dream slowly turned into something very heavy. Years later, he said something that shocked a lot of people. He said he wished he had torn up that ticket. In 2003, a 16-year-old girl named Kelly Rogers won almost £2 million. 16 years old, no experience with money, no structure, no guidance, and suddenly she had more money than most adults ever will. Over the following years, she spent large amounts on things like cosmetic procedures, shopping, short-term lifestyle upgrades, things that felt normal in the moment, but left nothing behind once the money was gone. Add to that unstable relationships, pressure from people around her, and the money disappeared quickly. Within a few years, most of it was gone. And later, she spoke openly about the regret of winning that money so young. And this is not just one story, and it's not just extreme or unusual cases. There are also people who come from completely normal lives and end up losing everything just the same. One example is Michael Carroll, a young man from the UK who was working as a garbage collector. When he won almost £10 million, overnight his entire life changed. And at first, it looked exactly like what people imagine. Houses, cars, parties, money being spent freely. Because when you suddenly have millions, it feels like it will never run out. But very quickly, things started to spiral. Heavy spending, drugs, a lifestyle that kept growing without anything to support it. Within a few years, almost all of the money was gone, and eventually he ended up working again, back in a normal job after having had millions in his hands. And when you hear stories like this, it's hard not to feel something, because this wasn't supposed to happen. This was supposed to be the moment where everything got better. But instead, it became the moment where everything started falling apart. And that's the real question here. How does something that looks to be the ultimate solution turn into something that leaves people worse off than before? So how do people go from millions to having nothing again? Well, because the truth is, nothing about you suddenly changes. You're still you. And the first thing that happens is your life starts to change, because suddenly you can buy the things you've been thinking about for years. The house you've always wanted is now possible. The car you've been looking at, you don't have to think twice anymore. Traveling, helping people, saying yes instead of maybe later. Everything that used to feel out of reach is now right there. And here's the thing, none of that feels wrong. It feels deserved. It feels like this is exactly what I would do. But slowly, without really noticing it, your entire life becomes more expensive. And not just once, but permanently. And then people start to notice, and everything around you shifts. Friends start asking for help. Family needs support. Someone is struggling. Someone has an idea. Someone just needs a little bit. And you help, because why wouldn't you? You have the money and they're important to you. And that's when it becomes difficult, because saying yes feels right. But those moments don't happen once, they keep happening. And all of this is happening without a real plan behind it. Because the money didn't come slowly. You didn't build towards it. It just appeared. So you're making decisions based on what feels right in the moment, not on what will still make sense 5, 10, 15 years from now. And that is how it happens. Not because people are stupid, but because everything they're doing feels completely normal until one day the numbers don't add up anymore. And this is where almost everyone gets it wrong. They don't lose the money because they are careless or irresponsible. They lose it because no one ever taught them how to handle that kind of money. Because what most people do is start living off the capital. They treat that big amount like it's an income, but it's not. It is a pool of money that is supposed to produce income, not replace it. So what happens? They start paying from everything from that one pot. The house, the cars, the lifestyle, the upgrades. And at first, it feels like nothing is changing because the number is still big. But slowly, that number starts going down. A little here, a little there, until one day it is no longer big enough to carry the life they build on top of it. Because if you keep living from the capital without replacing it, it'll run out every single time. The people who actually keep their wealth approach it completely different. They don't live from the money itself. They live from what the money produces. That means they take the capital and put it to work in investments, in assets, in things that generate a return over time. And on average, that might be 6, 7, maybe 8% a year after inflation. Not every year, but over time. And that percentage becomes their income, not the millions themselves, just the surplus. So instead of slowly draining the pot, they protect it and let it keep growing. And here's the part most people still underestimate. Even with these large amounts of money, you still need structure. Because whether you're managing $3,000 a month or $300,000 a month, the principle is the same. If you don't decide where it goes, it'll disappear anyway, just on a bigger scale. That surplus, that return your money is generating, needs a plan. How much do you spend? How much do you reinvest? How much do you keep as a buffer? Because without that structure, even large amounts of money can vanish surprisingly fast. And that's why so many lottery winners end up right back where they started. Not because they didn't have enough money, but because they didn't change the way they handled it. And this doesn't just happen to lottery winners. This is happening at every level, also with regular incomes. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next, because there is a trap that keeps a lot of people stuck even when they're earning more. And it's called the middle class trap. If this kind of content helps you see money differently and you want to understand how to build something that lasts, make sure to subscribe, because this is exactly what we're breaking down on this channel, step by step, in a way that makes sense in real life. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.